everyone, and welcome once again to Comic Book Late Night. It's week 9, and I'm your host, Captain Logan, and here is my co-host, as always, the wonderful Curious Lo.
Good evening, everyone.
Tonight, we broadcast to you live, and we're going to be talking about DC Rebirth, also some other books that we read from this last week. What we usually do on the show is we go through our top 3 books from the previous week, and then we tell you what books we're most looking forward to coming out this coming week that we'll be talking about next Monday. And we're going to do that, but we're going to streamline it and truncate that a little bit tonight, and we're going to spend the first 10-15 minutes or possibly a little bit more, I don't know, and we'll answer questions and talk to people in the chat, doing kind of a mini spoiler cast on this. So if you are watching live right now, or even after the fact, if you want to, look at the timestamps and jump to later, we are going to be spoiling this and just straight up talking about it. Usually we avoid spoilers on this show, and this show is much less about in-depth reviewing and analysis and much more about what do we get at the comic shop, what do we recommend, and telling you what we think you should go pick up and what maybe you should avoid. But we are going to get a little bit more, not super in-depth with this, but we're going to talk about the big stuff that people are, I'm sure, going to be wondering about, how we feel about where we're moving forward with Rebirth, the big controversial stuff in this, and we'll be talking about a couple of controversial books tonight, because I'll bring up Captain America, what is it, Steve Rogers' Captain America, is that the name of that book, a little bit later. I didn't get a chance to pick that book up at the shop didn't get the chance. I read the preview for that book for Free Comic Book Day and didn't care for it, and so I didn't bother picking it up. And then, naturally, the entire world was in an uproar over that book, and I hadn't picked it up, so I went ahead and went online and found an online copy and read it. And I'll talk a little bit briefly about that a little bit later as well. If you're watching live, feel free to leave comments in the regular chat there on the YouTube video page, and ask us things and leave comments about what you thought of Rebirth if you read that, or anything, if you haven't had a chance to read it, that you might want to know about with this. So, big 80-page giant. This is, and again, spoilers, here they come. Get ready for them. 80-page giant. This is, sorry, Lois said almost nothing since we started. Hi, Lo. Thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm here. And don't forget, everybody that's live in the chat, to make some predictions about what you think either Cap or I are going to have in our top 3 for next week. And if you get one of those right, if you're the first person to get one right, you will get a free digital comic.
That's right. Thanks, Lo. Appreciate that. You can have that job from now on. I appreciate that. That was so eloquent and quickly stated. Thank you very much. So anyway, getting into Rebirth, so 80-page giant, a 3-box, really happy with DC for that. It's a really cool way to compete right now in the comics world. I've been saying for years they need to do that. I said they needed to keep the line drawn at $2.99 back when New 52 started. They didn't do that. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous of them. But Lo, and I'll give you the floor here in a second, because this is going to lead directly into what I'm sure you're going to want to start with, which is, it's a little bit counterintuitive, and again, I love that they dropped the price tag. I mean, granted, I get the sense that we're going to get a bunch of like extra books they're going to try to sell us at $2.99, because we're getting this beginning foundational thing to get us started, right? And then there's going to be all of these one-shots that are like Batman Rebirth #1, Green Arrow Rebirth #1, and then later we'll get into the actual books. So they are trying to get you to buy more stuff, but at least the price tag is better, and it looks like they're gonna stay at that. But Lo, does it strike you as somewhat of a weird pairing where we're gonna finally drop the price, which would be a thing that would maybe entice new readers to come back and try again, and this is not exactly the most accessible for new readers thing I've ever looked at. And I kind of get the sense that Rebirth on the whole is likely to maybe be that way a little bit, given that this is so much of a throwback and celebration of old DC, and kind of Jeff Johns saying, we screwed up with 52, guys. Sorry about that, and let's have a big commentary about what's wrong with jaded and cynical and not optimistic comics right now. 52 was all about trying to get new readers in and making a big deal out of we are starting the whole continuity over, and they upped the price tag on a lot of stuff. I think it's really funny the dissonance there. Lo, what was your experience with this?
I would have to say that my experiences with this was mostly one of confusion. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that I am a fairly new comic reader. I'm only at about a year, I think, right now since I picked up my first single issue comic. Interestingly enough, I had read The Watchmen. That was one of the only graphic novels I had ever read prior to picking up single issues. So that was one of the only things I wasn't confused about, and it was like this much. But yeah, there was a lot of, as opposed to being like a reboot of the universe, it felt like instead of, and not to say that this is necessarily a bad thing, but just from my point of view, it felt like more of a making the universe, instead of like streamlining it or making it like accessible or like a jumping off point, which is sort of what I was looking forward to because I am such a new comic reader. It was an extremely like, everything in the past is now completely valid and smushed together, and Lo is very confused. I didn't hate it. I just felt like I was very much like, okay, I don't know who some of these characters are, or like I know their names, but I don't know anything about them. And so I was very much like, I had a Wikipedia page open as I was reading it, kind of like, okay, wait, who's this person? Like, when were they last here? Because they would like say something, and I'm like, I don't know that continuity. I don't know, anything before 52 except for like a couple of very select things that I've read, which didn't really seem valid here. So it was a little frustrating. I definitely want to stick with Rebirth because I want to be reading more DC, but it was mostly confusing. The end was interesting, but yeah, confusion.
Yeah, and I don't want to cop out here. I've got my reservations about this, but I have very much of a wait-and-see attitude about this. I think that there could be certainly some spectacular books that come out of this, and I like that the general tone of this is let's get back to basics, which is hilarious because it doesn't feel basic at all as far as continuity stuff is concerned, as you said. It's funny that we're making such a big deal out of Everything Matters because that's what Convergence was supposed to be all about. I mean, we already sort of soft rebooted 52, and now we're just getting back to number ones again, and kind of sort of pseudo soft rebooting again. People that say that reboot is not the right word for this. The thing is, we're kind of retconning stuff inside of the continuity, and it feels like a soft reboot. Certainly. Now, I have not been reading Flash, so I don't know if this was a thing that was already inserted into the new Wally West in that, but I would be really surprised if that were the case. Wally West, it turns out, the 52 Wally West, the different one, is not actually the real Wally West, and is like, what was it, like a cousin or something.
Yeah.
They did kind of that Jimmy Olsen Smallville thing. He's not the real Wally West. We're look, like Jeff Johns keeps saying, look, everybody, we're not rebooting. We're just forging ahead and bringing back things and making everything that. Yeah, but you're retconning and you're mixing stuff around in order to make that whole thing work. You didn't want Wally West to have to be an alternate continuity thing because you want all of the old regular Earth stuff in DC Comics to matter. Having said that, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be really excited to see regular Wally West back again. I kind of expected him to get written out as soon as he got introduced, and was really surprised when that didn't happen. He pops in and he's trying to not become part of the Speed Force, and I thought he was going to get killed off, to be perfectly honest with you. I was kind of surprised that it seems like he might that he's going to be able to stick around. And I guess for the sake of this as a piece, if you can even call it that, because it is an introductory thing to Rebirth, it's all about optimism and how these comics haven't been that enough lately. And so for Wally West to come in and be talking about how the world is wrong and it's not optimistic and what happened, I especially love this flow. What happened to all the relationships? We make a really big deal out of that. I had Melinda Park and Clark Kent had his Lois Lane. What happened to all of that? And it felt like it was almost like reading in a way, I mean, it reads very Jeff Johns, but it was almost like reading a DC fan that didn't like 52 trying to reboot 52, saying like, here's all the stuff that DC is about that you haven't had in all this time. But anyway, what I was going to say is, if you're gonna make it all about we're trying to be optimistic again, you can't kill them off. So I guess I'm glad that they didn't do that. What did you think of this story wise? I guess not being used to, like, for a minute we'll talk about this on a story level and then we'll broaden it back out again. Did you find yourself liking Wally West, appreciating that character, or did it feel just like kind of a device to like bring this stuff back into continuity?
I think all the stuff with the multiple flashes was like my favorite part of this book. Didn't really care for the Aquaman stuff. The Batman stuff at the end was okay. The little that we got, but and I feel like Flash sort of dominated this book. But I really liked everything that was going on with him. Again, I say that my prevailing emotion was confusion. That doesn't mean that I didn't understand what was happening on a base level, at least.
Right.
I liked the sort of reunion that happened. I thought that it was written well and the art was pretty good.
Yeah, the art is the reason to look at this.
Yeah.
If you, obviously, a sense of what the tone of this. Yeah, go ahead, Lo.
This page is just I think my favorite out of the whole issue. I don't know. I really liked that spread and showing the flashbacks and stuff in a slightly different layout. I don't know. I liked it a lot, but it was still just slightly confused.
It's just so much throwback, and when you look at, and I've been really positive about what we heard about Rebirth to be. I think the way that was presented in the live show and everything was exactly the way to sell it. Never mind what it ends up actually looking like, especially now that we've looked at this and we've gotten a taste of it. And again, keep in mind that we're not talking about a big company-wide event. It's called Rebirth, but it's going to be a bunch of different stories that are just regular books in this kind of new direction of this universe. So I'm just hoping for a percentage that is a lot, that I like a lot more than the percentage I have liked of 52, certainly. But Lo, when you look at all of the Superman stuff that we're doing with Superman and with bringing, which I'm excited about this, but bringing in Jurgen's 90s Superman as the main Superman now, because we just killed off 52 Superman in this. Spoiler alert, he's dead now. It makes me a little bit concerned, maybe a lot concerned, that what we're gonna do with a lot of stuff moving forward is kind of not backtracking, but DC's greatest hits just over and over and over again. That's already been a problem quite a bit, but we've got the Three Jokers thing, which looks like, and we don't know much about that yet, at least just according to, just with this, except that we see 3 different Jokers on monitors, and it looks like recent Joker and then a couple of past Jokers, and so it looks like we're likely to, kind of explore the history of that character and the differences between different interpretations through having physically 3 different ones. Is mostly what we're doing moving forward just commenting on the history of DC Comics and doing kind of commentary, maybe criticism of superhero comics now and what they've been and that kind of thing, because that could get really old and really stale really quickly. One of my biggest complaint about Snyder Batman was, as much as I liked a lot of things about some of those stories, it was too much analyzing itself and kind of writing a paper about Batman inside of a comic book as opposed to telling a story. Although I just don't want that to be all we're doing moving forward, and that's kind of my worry right now.
Yeah, I could see that. Just real quick, going back to the Joker thing, because that was one of the things that was a main spoiler on this. I went into this because I read the spoilers. I went into this expecting mayhem with 3 Jokers causing havoc, and they were literally in a single panel, which kind of made me laugh because that was one thing that I definitely knew about going into this, and this ended up being mostly Flash, which I don't think they really talked about in any of the spoilers, at least not that I saw. I see what you're saying about the storytelling going forward, but just to echo what you said earlier, and this is even more so for me because I am so new to DC, I'm more in sort of a wait and see kind of mentality at the moment.
That's my concern. I'm not saying that I'm not still excited to see.
Right.
I'm just glad that we're losing this 52 vibe. At the very least, I can enjoy the throwback. I just don't know how long I would be on board for that. We've got to move forward and carve a new identity and not constantly rely on the past. And Steve is saying in the comments that not only is this all about DC history, but it even contradicts it quite a bit. And Johns doesn't seem to just in this book really know his stuff very well. I don't know DC history nearly as well as Steve and a lot of other people, so I didn't pick up on as much of that as maybe I ought to have. But like, I don't know, man. I'm not sure about it. It was fun to get back into Jeff Johns' Flash again, and I mean but again, it really feels like it's like DC was in a good place back in 2010. Back to that, and Manos and I, when we talked about the first Justice League arc right before Manos quit DC, we kind of predicted that would happen, and we didn't really think that they would, or anyway, I don't remember what Manos said. I didn't really think that we would straight up go back to the past and like retcon everything 52 and wipe all of that out, and we haven't done that, but it certainly seems like tonally we've gone, okay, this kind of like edgy 90s Marvel thing we tried, I don't know why we thought that was a good idea, didn't ultimately really work past those first 6 months, because we kind of used that as a stopgap measure, and we made a whole bunch of money right then, and then it kind of all went downhill from there. I don't know. So some of those books might be absolutely fantastic, but this really felt like it was trying to appeal to those people and the folks that have stuck on. And I don't know how anybody that actually, and I don't know if a lot of those brand new readers actually stuck with 52, but are any of those people excited about this? Like that's a question I have. Are any of those people like super lost looking at this going, oh crap, they brought in all that old continuity? Except that a lot of it didn't really go away. It was just truncated and made weird and didn't fit within a continuity. So anyway, I don't know. This is just the problem is, by criticizing what they did with this book inside their own case, and I realize I'm dominating right now. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
But by doing that, they've drawn a lot of attention to how convoluted the whole thing was, and now it just feels kind of even a lot more so. Even if again tonally, it's more what I would like to see from this company moving forward. We got to talk about the Watchmen thing. Yeah,
well, I mean, I will say that tonally, I was totally on board with this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I either like really, really dark stuff or really, really light stuff. Like, I tend to not like it when stuff toes the line, especially in comics, like in actual physical comics. So I kind of liked this because it seemed a little bit more dark. Not to say that that's where it's going, but I liked it. I was intrigued, and definitely the Watchmen thing is, as tiny as it is at the end, is very interesting, and there was so much backlash on the internet, which me being, that's the most thing that I'm familiar with is Watchmen, and I'm really excited. I get that, like, it's, for a lot of people, that character and those characters exist outside of that, and it's a very meta book, and it's a very, like, does a lot of commentary on comics, and so that stuff starts to break down when you introduce it into an actual comic universe. That still doesn't stop me from being intrigued, and like I see where people are coming from, but I'm quite excited to see what that means. Not necessarily that it will be a good thing, but I think it could be a cool direction to go. We'll see.
I'm intrigued by it too, but it sure strikes me as likely to be all novelty and not a lot of substance, possibly. Now the way Johns is framing it, because again, it's all commentary about comics, and so what we're doing is we're saying here are the issues with comic books. It's always funny to use the word issues when you're talking about comics. Here's the things that are really difficult to get away from. You got these characters that are created to go on forever, or at least we create them and then we try to make them go on forever, and we keep them in perpetual serialized stories. And we've now seen a lot of very kind of metafictional comic book stories that I'm always citing Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. Watchmen has bits, not exactly this, but certainly commentary and discussion of the medium, and kind of pushing against some stuff from that the medium was doing with superheroes at the time, dealing a lot with how comics are constantly putting their characters in these really awful places and doing horrible things to them, not in the way that you would usually want to see horrible things happen to your characters, just so that we can continue to regurgitate them and use them over and over and over again. And I paused real hard toward the end with the Dr. Manhattan line. Or I can't remember if it was Manhattan or was it. See, I haven't read that book in a long time. It's been a while since I reviewed that. But you've got that. But you got that line that's repeated and echoed at the end of Nothing Ends. And I'm not going to say that made me more okay with trying to bring Watchmen into DC proper. It strikes me as a gimmick, and it strikes me as a really bad idea potentially, or at least not fair to that book. Not fair to Alan Moore. And I mean, like Alan Moore, certainly is whatever. I don't agree with him about adaptation and stuff largely, but at the same time, that was a story. It was making a particular point about the medium, and those characters. See, and I didn't like the idea before Watchmen either. I tried stuff in. I just didn't think it was a thing we should have done. But that was, a book that was, meant to be a self-contained thing, and now we're trying to, just because it's a popular thing that we know it, now we're trying to make it, DC Universe proper, kind of, maybe. But again, I'm waiting to see, because the idea of using that to then comment on itself is meta and interesting, but that doesn't make it a good idea, right? Where it's like Nothing Ends, so we're gonna bring in Watchmen and we're gonna piss everyone off.
And I'm like,
I don't know.
The champion of meta. Like, I love meta stuff just for the sake of meta, and even I am like, okay, I get what you're trying to do, but that doesn't mean that it's a good idea, and that doesn't mean it's going to work out properly. I will say that I feel like this would work better if they wanted to do this as its own sort of self-contained story. The fact that they're doing it with the entire DC universe is where, in my opinion, it starts to get a little iffy for me. I already said that I'm not super no, I'm like not going to read Rebirth or like anything like that. Like, I didn't hate it. I'm wary of where they're going with it because it's the entire DC universe. If it was a self-contained like offshoot or little like event, like just an event and that was it, that could be cool. That would be really interesting to see this continuity that is all about like critiquing and talking about comics as a medium. Then having a character from that create a comic book universe is very interesting, and I would like to see that. But the fact that it's the entire universe is odd.
Yeah, DC Stranded here in the live comments, and thanks folks for leaving comments. Says, I don't feel that way because even if it sucks, I don't see how it takes away from the original. And that's totally fair. To a point, I think the problem, and thanks for that comment. The problem is it kind of takes away from the original if it makes exactly that book part of this multiverse and this whole world, I think, because for several reasons, and I won't get into everything right now, but a lot of it is you had all these characters in that were analogs of DC characters already. Now I realize that we have a lot of characters, within the DC multiverse that are like offshoots of each other and kind of analogs, even if they're not exactly the same character and stuff like that. I get that, but that was a book that, and Steve and I had this discussion a few days ago, and I should have probably just brought him into the show, but then we would have been here for 3 hours, probably Lo wouldn't have gotten to say anything. That book was about what if basically, with an alternate history, what if you had superheroes in the real world? And I could see it as part of, here's the thing, if we roped Watchmen, and I don't think Morrison would ever want to do this, but if we roped Watchmen into Morrison's multiversity, I could almost see it more, because he brings in our real world as part of that and as part of his multiverse. And there's a whole thing about like comics being drawn and those becoming realities, and it's all about the fine line between reality and fiction, and if characters kind of become real in a way because we imagine them that way and we care enough about them that they kind of take on life. I could sort of see Watchmen as part of that, but I don't know about this. Having said all of that, if it was never brought up again, I'd kind of be okay with it. If the idea is, and the problem with it is that's not what will happen, I don't think, and I don't think it ultimately makes a lot of sense, because I don't know why we would find out about it now. I don't know how in the world the comedian button winds up in the Batcave. How does that even happen? That tells you that we're doing some kind of crazy universe, multiversal mixing thing, and that winds up there for some gimmicky reason. It was a cool full-page spread, and I wish, and I said this before, I don't know that I wouldn't have somewhat of a different reaction to this if I hadn't read it on the internet first. And I didn't want to do that. It popped up in my feed, and because of what I do, it's really hard not to see that stuff sometimes. So, a lot of people that got lucky and didn't see that because they aren't plugged in all the time. I don't mean to be frustrated about my job. I love what I do, but man, sometimes I wish that didn't happen, and sometimes it doesn't, and I get really excited about it. If I had popped that open, I would have, I'm sure, had a jaw to the floor, and it would have been somewhat of a different experience. But I probably would land in the same place I'm landing right now, which is, if the idea is the DC Universe in the first place was created by Dr. Manhattan when he said, I'm going to go create some life, I could maybe kind of sort of see that and be okay with it. But what I don't want to see, Lo, is I don't want to see those characters resurrected from their story that was a self-contained thing. I mean, he found the comedian button. Are we going to bring the comedian back to life? I don't know, man. I don't want to see all that. I don't want to see a sequel to Watchmen. Never want to see a sequel to Watchmen. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. It's a weird wait-and-see sort of game. It could go either way. I feel like it is going to go down a road that I'm not going to love.
See, okay, Mario, you here. Sorry, I don't interrupt. Mario, you here says, no, Manhattan only created New 52, not the whole universe. I keep hearing that. I don't know. Just give me a link and tell me where exactly that's confirmed. I'm sure it's online someplace.
That's not the vibe I got from reading this.
Me neither. And everybody keeps saying that. I don't know where they're getting that from. That probably is the case, and I hope it's not, because it makes no freaking sense. The 52 universe was created by Flashpoint. We have with the myriad flashbacks and recaps of things in this. We go back to Flashpoint and see that happen. It makes no sense that would create Flash, and that would be really gimmicky and novel and isn't that a clever thing? No, we already had the. We already know how the Flashpoint universe happened, and it was already kind of a hackneyed job to begin with. Why would Dr. Manhattan going to create life take a universe and change that existed already and alter it? So I don't know. That's just
I don't have much else to say.
That's just enough to make me not even want to think about it anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, they're not thinking. They weren't thinking with a lot of 52 stuff. Flashpoint was this really neat universe that honestly should have been the 52 universe for 5 years if we were gonna do that, because it was more interesting. I mean, it was, I guess, somewhat of a darker and less optimistic place too, but at least it was interesting, and I like some of those people more than I like a lot of 52 people. And anyway, whatever. I'll stop rambling. There are folks in the comments that liked this a lot, and folks that really didn't. I'm not going to say I disliked it. I mean, I certainly was really enjoying it, and again, really enjoying getting back to that kind of tone. Wally West coming back was absolutely the way to do this. Not that surprising coming from Johns, but certainly, was the way to do it. I think there are likely to be some really, really dynamite books in Rebirth. Was really surprised, I gotta say, that I didn't get to the end with all of the covers showing us some books, and it wasn't everything, but showing us books that are about to come out, that there wasn't a Watchmen book. Like I was kind of half expecting like a Watchmen book would pop up. So is this going to be like Pandora, where we keep hinting at it, and then when we finally make a big deal out of it, it's something nobody really cares about or likes? And Pandora was here. That was amusing.
Yeah, I don't have as much history with DC as you do, so for the most part, just wait and see. I don't have much else to say about Rebirth. I didn't hate it. Unlike, I'm sure, even though we were talked to death that Watchmen stuff, I didn't hate it. I'm just intrigued / apprehensive as to where it's going. We will see as all these new Rebirths start coming out.
I'm just like half venting and trying to decide what I think of this, because
I know
I'm finding myself more frustrated as I'm talking about it. But I didn't feel like that as I was reading it. I knew the Watchmen thing was in there. And like I said, I was somewhat impressed with the way it was roped in at the end for the sake of this, but I'm looking at the future. I always look 5-6 years ahead, and I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Somebody says, and I almost said this earlier, Sam Weth, I'm fine with Dr. Manhattan in this new universe as long as the Watchmen references are minimal. I'm fine. Yeah, I could see that. Steve won't agree with you, but I could see that.
But the fact that we have that button in there, I don't.
They're not going to do that.
They've already referenced more than just Dr. Manhattan.
Here's the thing. I'm with you. If the button wasn't there, the freaking button. It's all about a button.
Dang button.
If the Watchmen pin wasn't there in the Batcave, because again, that just seems like so random and bizarre, and could turn out to be really cool. But I mean, go back and look at Flashpoint and like how easily reset the universe was, where it was just like, and now it's suddenly this universe that we want to look a certain way for the way we're going to write books and stuff. I don't know, but like if it was just the bookend with the Dr. Manhattan thing, I would have been like, this is really interesting, and I still do kind of feel that way. But like, yeah, the button thing, I don't know. In the Batcave,
yeah,
in the Batcave,
because I love that final clock with the blood splatter on it. I think that's kind of cool and semi-iconic.
Well, and also keep in mind that that's really interesting because, but again, could be it's spelling things to come that we could end up not like. It's the Doomsday Clock going backwards. So we're taking Watchmen, and this is a thing this is probably one of the big things that's gonna bother people, is that it's using Watchmen to go optimistic. Some people will see that as a giant perversion. You're taking the Doomsday Clock and saying that, we had Doomsday in Watchmen. Not Superman Doomsday. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. We had this, we had this Doomsday Clock, and then the comedian has his plot, and it works. And then we have a utopia, and the end of that book suggests that it's not going to last, right? And then, like the whole point of that ending is that's probably not sustainable. And then you have the Doomsday Clock, and you start going backwards. And we're using Watchmen partly to say that the DC universe is an optimistic place again. Okay.
Yeah.
That odd choice, whatever. I guess we'll see. But yeah, Marcus Schnolls, you're digging too much into the button. But am I? I don't know. I don't
feel like it's nitpicking.
It's in the Batcave. I'm gonna.
Because I'm not even saying that I dislike the button. I just think that changes things.
No, I know, but it just seems like that's just like this big like shock moment, and I bet we never have an explanation for how that happens. Maybe we do.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely
totally
not.
Believe it, but I don't trust it.
That is there to make us do this. That is there to shock and twist at the very end of a comic. That's why that's there. They want us to be talking about that. They want us to be like, what does this mean for the comedian? What does this mean for Watchmen? Like that, I don't know.
But it could totally work. I mean, you have Wally West in the Speed Force popping out at random places. Maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it has everything to do with the fact that Wally West was there from the Speed Force. Maybe the Speed Force is somehow or rather the thing that is tying not tying these things together, because apparently Dr. Manhattan kind of created this world, I guess. But like is somehow maybe a breach or something. But it's like the really iconic thing from that book. I'm just saying it doesn't seem like a real story-driven thing. It seems very commercial, and I know comics are commercial, but like I don't know. I resist that. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's talk about some other things real quick.
Yeah. This isn't just a Rebirth thing. This is Comic Book Late Night. Jamie
Cook, what's worse, Cap? They don't explain the button and it's annoying, or they explain it and it's dumb? I don't know.
They explain it and it's dumb. I will stand by that. I would rather have it be this weird thing that just had to do with the fact that Dr. Manhattan was a part of this universe than it be a really bad thing. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, well, I understand, like, I'm a little conflicted, because, like I said, as I was reading it, I was really liking it, but I also felt slightly duped, and I don't know. If the whole thing ends up being really fun as a silly, goofy novelty that I can't take seriously, then that's one thing, but, Hard Volume 77, Cap, you have a problem with look at a visual medium from the point of view as a I don't know what that means. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some other books real quick. Matt Sci-Fi Fan, who rebirths the Rebirth. Great. Understand, folks, like I'm just reacting to this book. It might ultimately totally work for me. I don't know yet. I'm not condemning it. I'm not saying, oh, they did Watchmen, I'm done. Like I haven't done that. And I'm also very intrigued by it.
Same.
But it didn't have to come off that gimmicky. And what I'm frustrated about is not so much my relationship with this and my relationship with Watchmen. What I'm frustrated about is that Johns did the thing he had to have known would create that kind of backlash, and DC is hurting, and they need this to work. That's important. Like, they need this to work. Was it a risk? Yes, absolutely. And we'll see if it was, the right risk to take. But anyway, all right. We'll talk about Captain America here in a little bit.
Top 3?
Yeah, top 3. Go ahead.
All right. My number 3 was Spider-Man and Deadpool. It was this number 5. Basically, we have picked up with Spider-Man in hell/limbo, I guess, after being killed by Deadpool. Basically, it was just a big old Spider-Man is awesome fest by the end there. We had Mysterio sort of punishing Peter in this limbo that's not actually hell, and by the end of it, Deadpool kind of goes to rescue him and is like, no, Peter is so pure. It was just amazing. I love Deadpool and I love Spider-Verse stuff, so this is always a book that I really like. So very fun, but just awesome wisecracking and then Peter being awesome.
My number 3 is Ghostbusters International number 5, which I don't think I have put on my top 3s at all. This mini has been just okay, but this issue particularly was all kinds of fun and had some nice creepy moments, and this book doesn't usually get creepy enough for my taste. Like, it kind of sort of tries, but a lot of the time it doesn't feel like things are enough at stake, and I felt like that was better here. But this is, I'm recommending, and just this one issue. These are it's sort of like the road trip thing that Burnham did inside of the old monthly Ghostbusters book. Can't believe I'm saying old now, but it's been a few years. These are pretty easy to read. Like, there's there's an overarching framework that's holding these together, certainly, and I'm sure it will have a definitive ending. But these are pretty easy to pick up and read one issue at a time. Here we're going to the Louvre in Paris, and the Ghostbusters are being attacked by art and famous paintings, and it's absolutely hilarious. And they get attacked by the Mona Lisa, and that's the best thing ever. I also love this idea that they tout up that the Eiffel Tower might have been originally built to be a trap, to be a giant ghost trap. That was the reason it was built. That's fantastic. So there's some really hilarious ideas in alternate history and stuff here that I absolutely loved, and that's why I'm putting that on my number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Squirrel Girl number 8, which was basically just a big old dating montage for Squirrel Girl and her dealing with her lingering crush on Chipmunk Hunk, which is adorable. And I love Squirrel Girl. You guys all know this. I don't want to delve too much into it because honestly, that's really what it was just a lot of dating. It does set up for next month's comic. Just a little bit at the end there. There's a bit of a fight, and her current date, as she was going through all these different people from a dating site, was taken, and she had to correct said villain that was not her boyfriend, which I thought was adorable. And at the beginning, she just introduced a bunch of superheroes as just in the silliest of ways. Like she said, Chipmunk Hunk, powers of Chipmunk and Hunk. And it made me laugh because that's what Squirrel Girl does. It makes me giggle.
That sounds like just exactly
my taste.
What Curious Lo lives for. That's what she lives for. And when I go see Lo in August, I'm going to be riding around in a car listening to her talk about Squirrel Girl.
No, if anything, you're going to be riding around in a car listening to Hamilton with me. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You did mention that, yeah. Well, I'll bring some strange tunes of my own, Lo.
Okay. We'll go back and forth.
It'll be great. And then Jason will be with us, and he'll also have tunes. You'll have to listen to tons of Michael Jackson, I'm sure.
Oh, my God. I love that.
So my number 2 this week is going to be Superman, Lois, and Clark, number 8, which I'm not going to say a whole lot about, but this is setting up where our Jurgen Superman is going to be pretty well. I mean, obviously, Superman 52, which was like a close 4th. I might have put this on my top 3 also. Close 4th, a close also 2. Where we're definitively setting up, the Jurgen Superman as the Superman for this universe. I guess we'll see if he stays dead. I like this whole question from the Jurgen Superman. That's what I'm going to call him now, the Jurgen Superman. Of like, hey, I came back from the dead. I wonder if he'll come back from the dead. And they make it like this big question. And I guess they could do that. But they're kind of making a big deal out of the Jurgen Superman as the new Superman that we're going to be paying attention to in the main Superman book. So I guess we'll see. Man, I still part of this is I'm just giddy that that's what we're doing. I would never have thought that this book would matter in any way, much less that we would take the Superman I grew up with and make that the current Superman. Once again, yes, it is very throwback, but it's the Superman we had before 52, and that guy was very different, and I like things about him, but this is my Superman. So it is kind of exciting to me to move forward with that. But anyway, so we're kind of bringing Superman's son into his own and learning all the secrets and learning about his powers and what he can do. And I like this kid a lot. He's a lot of fun. I like that he's not super whiny or losing his mind about stuff. He is a little bit typical kid. I don't know that Jurgens is the best at writing kids, but he's doing dialogue-wise. But he's doing a good job of making me like this kid, and that's cool. The Henshaw stuff doesn't ultimately pay off in any really fantastic way or anything, but I mostly like this for kind of the moving family stuff, and that's why that's my number 2. Lo, what is your number 1?
My number 1 was my number 3 on my most anticipated last week, which was Scooby Apocalypse number 1. This is another book that is very much right up my alley. I really like Scooby-Doo. I'm not like an aficionado or anything, but I definitely watched it growing up, and
oh yeah, I did not check that out. I thought about
this
it.
is them in an apocalypse, and I love apocalypse
What?
stories. What? Who would
All
have
of a sudden,
known?
Apocalypse shows up, and he's all, I'm going to rule you, and you should pay attention to me, and I'm important, and where's Professor Xavier? I need his brain.
That's exactly what happened.
Is that what happens?
The art is awesome. It's so not anything that you've, at least that I've ever seen from any sort of Scooby-Doo material. Shaggy is a total hipster. It's sort of this like dystopia future, and there are nanobots that are going to take over the world and like change everybody into these like docile sheeple, and Scooby is adorable. It's great. I use the word adorable. I must love the comic because that is obviously my favorite word. This was great. I really, really recommend it if you tend to have similar comic book taste as me, because this was Lauren's book. It was awesome.
If I start using adorable, does that mean that I like stole it from you and you can't have it anymore, or like are we gonna fight for it? Like
you like stolen my power.
I'm like, Curious Low, Obi-Wan and Anakin this week was adorable.
Somehow I don't think that would work as well.
She's like, did you read it? How do you know? It was not. It was
That's
not adorable.
true.
It was.
I didn't read it, so it could have been.
Absolutely not. Somebody wants to know if Fred is in that book. Lo?
Yep, he gets punched in the face.
He gets punched in the face, and it was adorable.
Da-da. That's him right there.
There he is. There he is. Probably before he gets punched out in the face.
Yeah.
Somebody also asked if that last Spider Women book got delayed. Was it supposed to come out this weekend and it got delayed,
yep.
or?
As far as I know, when I was looking stuff up, it was supposed to come out this last week, and it's coming out this week. And I think it must have gotten delayed because there's also Spider-Woman #8, which is past the crossover.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
well, and also like, why would you have a week? Like obviously, why would you have a weekly crossover between books for 7 weeks and then skip a week and then have Omega? Like,
yeah. So I had it on my top 3 last week.
That.
I won't put it in my top 3 again this week because that would be silly.
What if it's awesome?
Yeah, I'm sure I will love it, but I already gave it recognition last week, and I need to get to some other books at some point. I can't just talk about Spider-Women and Squirrel Girl. But yeah, it did get delayed.
It's gonna be adorable.
So adorable.
My number 1 is going to surprise everyone, and after some of my reservations about DC Rebirth, I'm sure people are going to throw sticks and stones and want to break my bones, but just because of the writing and stuff, and like I don't understand what happened to me, because I read the Free Comic Day issue, which I think was this book, and I had a bad first impression with it. And then I read the first issue finally in its entirety, and it's not exactly my cup of tea, but I thought it was pretty decent. Is Steve Rogers' Captain America #1? I enjoyed it. The universe is freaking out about this, and the media likes to grab on as oh my God, Steve Rogers was always no, he wasn't. Just wait. There's no way. And I think the guy writing that has already come out and said that that's not exactly what's going on. Man, media people, just like, don't talk about comics without like reading them and talking to people. I'm not trying to be like an elitist snob about comics. I get it. Not everybody reads comics, but like, how do you know it's a story? Like, how do you know it's a newsworthy story? Like these kinds of things never pan out. Like, we don't keep characters dead. We don't like we're not going to fundamentally change that character for his 70 years of history. Like that, where he was always a high, like, how could you even begin to make any kind of sense? Like the bazillions of fights and wars he's got against Hydra, and he was one of them all. Like, why now? Why is he just now finally outing himself like that? The thing about his backstory is intriguing. And I guess, spoilers for this too, but like, it's been all over the news. I don't know how else to talk about it. But the thing about it, did you read it?
I didn't. When I didn't have it on my poll, And by the time I went to pick up my comics, it was all over the internet, and I wanted to pick it up, but they were out.
Yeah, there's this thing, Lo, in his background where it seems like his mother may have been invited to a secret Hydra meeting, and there's this parallel thing with what's going on present day with Hydra and Red Skull recruiting kids that are down on their luck and trying to find work, like young adults, and it's social commentary about how about the like oppression from companies on people just trying to make a living and get by, and that stuff hits pretty close to home and could be really heavy-handed and obnoxious, but I don't think it is yet, and I don't know, it seemed kind of poignant to me, and then and I guess part of it is just let me backtrack a minute and say here's why I liked it. Part of it is it's nice to have Red Skull back in a book doing regular Red Skull machinations and not having like Xavier's brain and controlling people. Like, as much fun as that was, it is a classic Captain America comic again, and a lot of going back to its roots and going back to like 70s and 80s Captain America. There are all kinds of hilarious references, if you really know your Captain America, to the weird runs and story arcs during that period, like when Captain America was a werewolf, and that kind of stuff it comes up, and the art, and I didn't like the art before, but like now I've read the whole issue, I thought it was fine. I don't know what that Captain Logan's problem with this book was. I kind of liked it. I don't know that guy. I don't know about that guy, but like it was really, a classic traditional Captain America stuff, and I loved like how completely optimistic and hopeful and self-assured Captain America is, and then at the end, oh my God, he's Hydra. What does that mean? I don't know. Obviously there's going to be some sort of twist for this, and will it ultimately work out? I don't know. I thought it was a solid first issue. If I read that by itself without listening to all the hype, again, just like somewhat like with Rebirth, I would have read that ending and been like, holy crap, how do you not keep reading? After that, it's exciting. A lot of really fantastic witty banter and stuff in that book. It's a really great, hopeful-seeming Captain America book in the midst of a lot of really awful societal pressures that it's talking about that I won't get into. And then somehow or rather he's not really himself. So I'm interested to see where that goes. I might end up not liking that run at all, but that first issue I thought was pretty darn solid.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like I have to apologize for liking that issue. I'm sorry, I liked it.
Not
I
at
really
all.
did. And I feel like I have to apologize for liking the things I liked about Rebirth and not being sure about other things.
I kind of feel that way too, because I've seen nothing but negative reaction to that book, that I'm very much like, I didn't hate it. Like, I see where you're coming from and how these could potentially be bad things, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so let's go ahead and do cover of the week now, Lo. And what was your favorite cover for this week?
I hate to be predictable here, but
She's so
the Scooby Apocalypse cover was definitely my favorite this week. I am in love with the art in this book.
That's a great cover.
Go too much into it, but it's so different than anything I've ever seen from Scooby-Doo, and the characters are like slightly different, and I love where all the characters are. It's such a pretty book, and the cover is great. I loved it. It was adorable.
It was adorable. My cover for the week is also the same as my number 2 pick for this week. It's Lois and Clark number 8. With Superman's kid getting the cape, and this is a cover that is a lot cooler once you've read the issue. But anyway, I don't know. It's a really heartwarming kind of book, and that cover just added to that. Okay, Lo, did you see anybody in the comments that tried to guess about things that we would reading?
I saw stuff. Nothing that's on my top 3. I don't know if you have Moon Knight, American Alien.
American Alien came out already, and I have not gotten a chance to read it yet. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, people are asking me if I picked that up yet. Jamie Cook. I'm going to try to do a... Steve and I were talking about... Was it Steve and I or me and somebody else? I can't remember. Talking about doing a... I think it was Steve. Because Steve wanted to review that book, and I said, well, would you wait for me because I want to do it too. So we're going to do a review of that whole thing together sometime... hopefully in the next couple weeks, because I got to get my hands on it. So I haven't gotten that yet. But yeah, none of those things. Is nobody going to go this week? Yeah, feel free to post your predictions. Moon Knight number 3 wasn't on my list.
Not mine either.
I'm going to buy that. Batman Rebirth was on mine, so Soundwave gets the code again. Congratulations, Soundwave. You can have any of my Marvel books that I'll be talking about here or showing you briefly. We're out of time, so I'll just show you stuff real quick. After you've heard them, I can't give you Captain America because like I said, wasn't able to get a copy of that. I had to read it online. Or at least I was able, but didn't care, and then I cared, and then I didn't have time to go get it. I don't have to explain myself to you. Anyway, okay, so let's go ahead now and briefly talk about some other books that we read. Lo, did you have anything else you want to talk about?
The only other one I really wanted to briefly mention, since we spent so long on Rebirth, was Red Wolf number 6, because I have talked about this book in the past, and this is the last issue of this arc, which was a spin-off of... what was it, 1873? I don't know. It was a year, and it was a Western Avengers book. I don't remember what year it was. It was 18-something, 60-something, 70-something. I don't remember. Maybe it was 80-something. Who knows? But this is a character from that series. And this is a spin-off about him that is totally not a Western because there's, like, time travel. It's crazy. But this was the 6th issue rounding off that plot line. And I just wanted to mention that it was good, and I was satisfied with it. What about you, Cap?
Well... I usually talk a little bit about books, but we're already at an hour, so I'll just go through these real quick. Daredevil number 7 is kind of already the end of. I guess this is only just sort of a 2-issue arc, I guess. Yeah, it was. And it does that thing where it's like, here's this crazy thing that we're going to retroactively add to characters' backstory, and then it turns out that it didn't actually happen at the end. Oh, all right. I enjoyed it, but it's not great. I guess we'll see where Soul takes this after that. But I enjoy the way he writes Elektra and how and the dialogue he puts in her mouth. Superman number 52, I talked about already a little bit. Come back to life. We'll see. Obi-Wan and Anakin number 5. I think is the end of this unless it's continuing. I thought this was just a miniseries, but the end of this didn't seem really like definitive and like it could keep. Maybe it's the end of it. Anyway, I don't know how I feel about this by the end. It's good. It's okay. It didn't give me. I wasn't as excited about it as I have been, but I need to read it all together. Back to the Future number 8. Hey, we might actually time travel in this book.
Woo!
Good for them. Still not sure about some dialogue choices in that book, and it feels too cartoony for that material. I don't know. It's okay. Carnage number 8. Not a great book. It's still. I don't care for all the occult stuff in this book. Like Carnage trying to get ultimate power from some book that can kind of make him godlike. It's just not super interesting to me. And when you make a serial killer your main character, you have to give me more of a reason for why I'm following this guy, or give me really interesting characters that are going after him, more interesting than the ones that are. And I also bought, and this is the only issue of this series I have bought from 52, the Flash number 52, because it's a Riddler issue, and I kind of half collect the Riddler. And it's fun to see Riddler as kind of a Flash rogue for a second, but this wasn't great, but it was sort of fun. That's my review. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to very briefly tell you about the books that we are most looking forward to next week. And this week, talking about a Monday. And Lo, instead of going back and forth like we usually do, why don't you just count us down real quickly, your 3 to 1. Go ahead.
Cool. My number 3 is Paper Girls number 6. If you guys remember all the way back from week 1 of Comic Book Late Night, I had this amazing first trade of Paper Girls as one of my top 3. I love this book so much. This kind of started the trend of me realizing that I have this weird obsession with children being in danger and really liking it for some reason. That's what started this, at least my realization of it. And I'm so excited to see where this is going, especially after the twist at the end of this trade. So Paper Girls number 6 is my number 3. My number 2 is controversial between me and Cap, The Punisher number 2, because he did not care for number 1.
Oh, it was okay. I didn't like it.
But I really, really liked it, and I'm very excited for number 2. And then my number 1 is the Prez trade paperback. If you did not read this in single issue, I cannot recommend this enough. This was
wow. I didn't know you read that.
I loved Prez. It's also, again, some of my favorite words. It's quirky and adorable.
Is it adorable?
Yeah, and it's about a teenage girl. Look at that. But it's a dystopia future where people are sent on game shows to try and win money, and the game shows involve them shooting themselves in the leg and things like that. And she is trying to save her father from dying, and she accidentally, because she becomes a meme on Twitter, and since the presidential election is not turning out voters as quickly as they would like, they have opened up the voting to Twitter, and she gets elected because she is the meme du jour. She gets elected as president, and that just kind of follows her rise to the presidency and what that entails as a teenage girl. Those are my 3.
Okay, I almost put Paper Girls on this list, but I'm not caught up with that book, so I didn't, just on principle. But I will catch up. I only have a couple issues I haven't read of that, but excited it's coming back. I told you it was coming back, Mo. Excited about that. My number 3 is Ninja Turtles, Bebop and Rocksteady Destroy Everything. Partly just based on that title alone, because that's just fantastic. But I have missed the Ninja Turtles miniseries. The Villain Micro series has been really great. We've had a few really fantastic. I got to get back into my Ninja Turtles brain. The Tanimals miniseries was actually quite spectacular. It's not a good word. It was really good. And the Bebop and Rocksteady one shot we did 2 or 3 years ago was weirdly one of the better ones. And those were all quite good. So anyway, kind of excited to have another miniseries with Ninja Turtles. Didn't like the Casey Jones and April one, but that was the only one I haven't really liked. And the Turtles in Time one was a little bit lame. But anyway, it'll be fun to see if they do something really cool with that. It's a time traveling thing, so I'm leery of that, but we'll see. And then my number 2 is Superman Rebirth number 1 because we've got we're going to get to see Jurgen's Superman finally solidified in that, so that's going to be an important thing for things that I haven't been invested in lately. And it will also be interesting to see Peter Tomasi, who is somewhat hit and miss for me, but I've liked him a little bit more lately, dealing with that version of Superman, because nobody else has written him lately besides Jurgens, and he's writing a very specific take on that character. So it'll be interesting to see if everybody does him that way, or if he's just the Superman that we had before, 52 Superman, where everybody that gets their hands on him does something kind of slightly different with him. And then my number 1 is Batman Rebirth number 1 because we get to see Tom King co-writing with Scott Snyder and kind of passing the torch to him. And it's Calendar Man story. Nobody ever does anything with Calendar Man, so that'll be potentially neat. Anyway, that's going to be it for us tonight, folks. We are past an hour, and we usually do a Q&A at the end of the show, but we took a lot of questions and read a lot of comments while we talked about Rebirth. Thanks for sticking with us throughout the show, and we had a bigger turnout tonight, I think, for Rebirth, so thanks a lot for that. And although that's part of the reason that I spent as much time on that as I did,
oh yeah,
more
of course,
people were here tonight than normal, so thanks for humoring me on that. I appreciate it. And
I hope my confusion-fueled review was enough for our live viewers. I apologize.
No, not at all. That tells us something. I mean, that's important because once again, it's not going to be a thing that's necessarily going to rope in new readers the way 52 did, and that's certainly not exactly their strategy right now.
Right.
But again, it's still
something to talk about.
But it tells us something, yeah, certainly, about the strategy. And you are usually the first person to be like, I don't care if there are things I don't understand. If the, if I'm invested enough in the character, then I'll catch up. I mean, I love your attitude about that, Lo. It's fantastic. So, if you are finding yourself going, a little muddled. I don't know what I'm looking
Yeah.
at exactly. That's that certainly tells you.
Telling.
So anyway, thanks again for watching, everybody. Sure appreciate it. And you folks have a fantabulous week. I will be getting the, finally, and I'm sorry for the wait on this, the Captain America Winter Soldier review to you in the next couple of days. I can't promise it tomorrow because I've got editing to do, but the writing is done, and I'm going to get that to you as soon as humanly possible. So stay tuned for that. And then we'll see you again on Sunday night if you can make it to that show at 8 Central for 0 Hour, talking about all of the week's developments in pop culture, comics, superhero, science fiction, and the lot. And then Lo and I will be with you once again, bright and early in the morning / late at night, but midnight again, I think. Yes,
Yep.
midnight. Next Monday night / Tuesday morning, and talking more comics. And we'll see how the beginning of this Rebirth thing begins to shape up. Comics are going to be a little bit more interesting and a little bit more exciting to talk about the next few weeks, I think, with that. And we didn't mention Civil War II at all. Civil War II starts this week.
Yeah.
I don't know how jazzed I am for that, but we'll see if it's any good. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Curious Slow.
And we'll see you again next time. Happy reading.